Miami Hurricanes are on 1-0 in our most recent game. And we have another one coming up this upcoming Saturday against a pretty quality and solid Georgia Tech team. They're just going to give them a little bit of a fight. But, man, you look at the last 2 weeks, and I tell you what, it's been nice to see these young guys go out and make plays.
So you hit on something right there that I'm going to add to something else I want to hit on. So I got 2 topics for you, but we might as well start with the last thing you just said, young guys. It's been nice to see the young guys stepping up playing. Mm-hmm. So this is something that you have talked about since August, March, back in spring practice, to say there are a number of guys that are coming into this program or have already been in this program maybe for a year that I want to see more of, because either I've evaluated them in high school and I know that they're top-notch talent, or they've been in the program a year and the people in front of them, the players in front of them, are not performing at the level that we need to perform to compete for championships. Therefore, they need to be given a shot. Okay. Right. We got into the season, a game against Alabama, game against App State, and it became pretty obvious after 2 or 3 games, okay, these players that have not performed in these particular positions for 2 or 3 years still are not performing to the standard that needs to be displayed. Let's get the young guys on the field now. Okay. After about 6 or 7 games, this has finally taken hold to a certain extent, and we've gotten results where this team has beat what I would consider, and most people, to be the 2 best teams in the conference this year over the last 2 weeks with the young guys in the lineup.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right, let's go ahead and get into it, Mark. Man, I talked about this on the channel last night. It's irking me because what gets misconstrued a lot is that people are misunderstanding the message that we're trying to get across. The reason why we want change so adamantly is because we don't want what's currently happening to the old guys to happen to the young guys later. That's what we keep saying. There's just a simple interview that happened March-ish. Tracy Howard was interviewed on a fellow YouTuber. Okay, I had this guy on my channel last night, and it's Footballville, and we're sitting there, we're talking, and he's like, "Man, do you remember that Tracy Howard interview?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember all of it." And he's like, "Do you remember what he said specifically about what happened in his time over the 4-year stretch of his time there at Miami?" I said, "Well, what are you specifically trying to get at?" And he says, when he first got to Miami, he's coming from Miramar, where they lost the state championship game in Broward County to Tampa Plant. That was his second loss in his career at Miramar, and he was not used to losing games like that. Like pouring tears, angry that they lost this game. He gets to Miami as a freshman in 2012, and they're losing games left and right. We ended out that season 6-6 and couldn't go to a bowl game. Okay. And what really irked him was the fact that the older guys were partying, getting drunk, and having a great time after losses. And it really irked him. By the time he became a senior in 2015, he was doing the exact same thing. Because culture is something that you have to make sure when you're building it that you're very careful at what you allow in, because it's so influential to your program. It's so influential to your program. And when the young guys see the old guys have bad things, you can create bad habits from just observing other people. Okay? You look at these older players, they feel like they should be owed the starting position and owed a lot of snaps, because when they were the young guys, you played the older guys no matter who was the better player. Now they're the older guy, and they expect you to leave them alone, let them do their thing, because we're the older guys, and when I was young, that's how you treated them. And that is something that Coach Diaz, from his time when he was a a video assistant and a grad assistant at Tallahassee when that program was rolling. That's what they did. Why? But we were an elite program. So you played the older guys because the older guys were better than the younger guys, no matter how good the younger guys were. So they got in line. They did what they had to do to grow as a player before they had the opportunity to actually go out there and play on the football field, because the guys in front of them were just that damn good. That's not what's happening with Miami right now currently. And, you know, it's really sad. It's sad to see Gervin Hall go out there on their football field and look lost, play with low effort. Okay, it hurts to see guys like Mark Pope have to hit the transfer portal because they can't get it done at Miami anymore. They can't hack it. It just doesn't work. It hurts because, you know, the Mark Pope you watch in high school, you're like, hey, if he ever gets a chance to go and be a slot and go get developed and get some nice weight on him, learn how to really catch the ball, and this guy could be a serviceable player, could be a third, fourth round draft pick, and you'll have a solid, or just be a really good college football player. And that's not what we got. Okay. And the issue we continuously run into, and why I'm saying we have to have change, Mark, is we don't want to go through this again in another 3 years. So make it the right one right now. And trust me, we're going to get into, you know, the divide of the fan base between rooting for wins or rooting for losses because you want to see change. We'll get into that and we'll discuss it here a little after I'm done with this one here. But it to cap off what I mean by the young guys is you have people as far as Tyler Van Dyke, Ja'Kai Clark at center. You also have Jalen Knighton at running back. You have the influx of wide receivers, complete change at wide receiver. Defensive end wise, guys like Chance Williams and Jafari Harvey, Leonard Taylor at defensive tackle, Keontra Smith at linebacker, James Williams and Cam Kitchens and Avante Williams at safety. All of these things, it happened, and they're playing due to two things: injury and pressure from the outside, as far as the media putting it on this staff to play the better guys. It wasn't because they were just that they were better than them and then they earned the opportunity. Because there's no way in the world that you look at a guy like Ja'Kai Clark and in 5 weeks he's that much better than a super senior Corey Gaynor. He's always been that much better than him. They just wanted to give Corey Gaynor because they know he's given so much time and effort and he's tried so hard. And we want to give back to his hard work and reward him with playing time. Play the best men. And when you build the program on that, you're also teaching young men that if I were to lose my job to somebody who's just better than me, they're better than me. If I'm given a handout, even though I know I'm not the better player, you don't want that kind of man going out into the workforce, because that mindset won't get you many places at all. Just won't.
Wholesome one. I remember us having a conversation, you and I, in August, and I told you I am going to be fascinated because let's take the wide receiver position. We know we have a couple guys that get significant playing time, D. Wiggins, Mark Pope, let's state their names, who have underachieved. So we have these other talented players coming either again that have been in the program, let's say a year, or are just newly freshmen having their first spring and fall camp. What's going to tell me when we hit the field against Alabama and who's out on the field and who gets the playing time is either miraculously D. Wiggins and Mark Pope got it. They miraculously in the last 4 weeks, just a light bulb went off and they became better players. We know what the deal is there. That rarely happens at this stage of a young man's career. It has happened at times, but it's very, very unlikely. So the other things that would be possible is that these young players just aren't prepared. They haven't developed quickly enough and they're not ready. And so the default is, well, let's go with the older players that at least know the plays in the offense. Or option number 3, which I hope was not happening, but we have strong evidence to the contrary, is that the coaching staff is just saying, regardless of what these young guys are doing in practice, even though they're showing us that they can step in and make an impact, we're still going to default to playing the veteran guys.
And think about that, Margaret. And how can you build a group of young men on that mindset? It just, and people have asked me, Wholesome, what about the inverse? What about, with you as someone who interacts with people, you love people, this is what you want to get into. How would you feel if you were in Manny Diaz's shoes? And I ask myself that question a lot, Mark, because it's easy for us to say that from afar. Okay. When you recruited a guy like Gervin Hall, you went into his home and asked his parents to trust you with his career. And then he gets to his senior year and you bench him. How would that feel? And you would have to look yourself in the mirror and truly question yourself that if he's been here for 4 seasons and I haven't done my job to make him better than somebody that just walked through the door, I failed that young man. But I would do even more detriment to him if I keep putting him out there on the football field and he continues to hurt himself and hurt his stock and hurt this team. And eventually you have to have those tough conversations with people who may or may not want to hear it. And you're going to have to hurt some feelings. You're going to have to hurt some feelings, man. It's just, it is what it is.